haven't told anyone about this, not a single person. It just stayed with me, tucked away, and I think finally writing it down, or, well, speaking it into a recording, feels like the only way to put it somewhere else. It was a job, a really unremarkable one, sorting inventory in a vast, cold warehouse. I needed the money, and at the time, a quiet, repetitive task seemed almost appealing, though that feeling didn't last. The boxes kept coming, frozen chicken mostly, same as always. I was getting pretty good at judging the weight just by looking at them, which meant less strain on my back. It was something to focus on, I guess, because Lena was still doing the same thing, just not acknowledging me. I'd say good morning when I clocked in, and she'd be there, already at her station, meticulously taping boxes. She'd look up, see me, her eyes tracked across my face, and then went right back to the tape. No nod, no morning, nothing. It was like I was a ghost. Today I tried being extra loud. Beautiful day, huh, Lena? I said it right as she was starting a new box. She flinched, just a little, and her hand slipped on the tape. She didn't say anything, just peeled off the messed up piece and started again. I figured she must be having trouble with her hearing. Maybe she couldn't make out what I was saying, so I tried pointing at the window, miming sunshine, giving her a thumbs up. She looked annoyed, actually more than annoyed, like I was actively bothering her. Still no response. Jerome, over in receiving, gave me a weird look. He probably thought I was losing it, talking to thin air. I caught his eye and just shrugged. What else could I do? It was probably just a really awkward personality thing. Some people are just private. Maybe she'd had a bad morning. I decided to just leave her alone. It was easier, but it wasn't right. It felt off, like a rule I didn't know about. I started taking the long way around to the break room. It added 5 minutes to the walk, but it meant I didn't have to pass Lena's station. It felt ridiculous, honestly, like being a kid again, avoiding the school bully. But every time I even glanced her way, she'd shift. Not a movement, exactly. More like her whole posture would tighten, and her eyes would flick up, even if she was looking down at a box. It was unsettling. Yesterday, I deliberately timed my bathroom break to avoid her. I waited 15 minutes, listening to the hum of the freezers, and then went when I heard Oren announce over the intercom that Lena was on a run to receiving. I thought I was being clever. I thought I was handling it. Then, I came back, and there was a note taped to my monitor. Just a small square post-it. It said, "Enjoy your break," no signature. I checked with Ada, who worked the next station over. She hadn't seen anyone near my area. She said she'd been focused on a mislabeled shipment of thighs. That's when it started to feel less like personal weirdness and more like something else. Like someone was watching. Not just watching, but knowing. I started paying attention to the camera angles. They're everywhere in that place, of course, but I noticed one, tucked way up in the corner, pointed almost directly at my station, and angled down just enough to catch my hands. It hadn't been there last week. Or maybe it had, and I just hadn't noticed. I figured it was new security protocol. They'd probably had a few thefts, and Marcus was probably cracking down. Still, I started to sort slower, deliberately making my movements less distinct, like trying to blend into the background noise. It felt stupid, but I couldn't shake the feeling I was being assessed. I kept glancing at the camera. The new one pointed right at my station. It wasn't a wide angle either. It felt focused, like it wasn't just recording but watching. I tried to ignore it, but it was hard to concentrate. Every box felt like an exam, every label a judgment. Then Lena came by, looking pale. "Did you get one too?" She whispered, barely audible over the conveyor belt. "A note?" I nodded, heart hammering. She showed me hers. Same cheap lined paper, same blocky, all caps handwriting. Efficiency as expected. Mine had said attention to detail is paramount. Different words, same weight. "Marcus is really laying it on thick, huh?" I said, trying to sound casual. Lena just shook her head, her eyes darting around. "It's not Marcus," she said, her voice tight. "He's in a meeting all day with corporate." From Chicago. That didn't make sense. Who else would be doing this? Some kind of weird team-building exercise gone wrong? A productivity push? It was still unsettling, but maybe it was just a really misguided attempt at motivation. Then the lights flickered. Just for a second. But it was enough. The conveyor belt shuddered to a stop. Everyone froze. And over the PA, not Marcus's voice, not anyone's I recognized, a single phrase, recalibration in progress. Before I could even process it, I felt something cold and wet on my neck. I whipped around. Oren was standing there holding a spray bottle, the kind they use for cleaning the belts. But he wasn't spraying the belt, he was just staring, bottle aimed at my face. A slow, deliberate squeeze. A fine mist coated my skin. It smelled like chlorine and something else, something acrid. I instinctively backed away, knocking over a stack of boxes. The smell, it burned my throat. I stumbled back, coughing, trying to wave it away. Oren just stood there, expressionless. Lena was yelling something, but I couldn't make it out over the ringing in my ears. Then the lights flickered, went out, and came back on. Everything was normal, except Oren was gone. He just vanished. I told Marcus about it during break. He is the union rep, or he was. Before they restructured things, he listened mostly. He kept asking if Oren had seemed agitated before and if there were any disputes. He didn't seem to think the spray was a big deal. He said it was probably just a stronger disinfectant they switched to. But he did say he'd talked to Jerome, the floor manager, when he got back from his meeting. I didn't feel better. I felt watched, not by cameras, though they were still there, blinking red, more like observed, like someone was taking notes. I started looking for patterns, the notes, the shutdown, the spray. It felt like a test, a really messed up, passive-aggressive performance review, like they were trying to push us to a breaking point to see how far they could go. Marcus found me later, looking grim. He said Jerome hadn't been in a meeting. He'd been on leave for 2 weeks. Family emergency, they said. But Marcus pulled up something on his phone, an old employee directory, Jerome's picture, and next to it, a name, Irene, listed as Jerome's sister, Irene from HR, the one who'd been so insistent about the new security procedures, the ones that gave them the right to monitor our work so closely. She'd asked me about my workstation setup just last week and seemed overly interested in my workflow. I thought she was just being thorough. I thought she was trying to help. It's been years. I don't think about it every day, not consciously, but it's there always. I still jump if a smoke detector chirps. Not a big jump, not anymore, just a tightening, a quick assessment of exits. I used to laugh at people who did that, preppers, the anxious types. Now I understand. I tried to find Oren online a few times. Nothing. No social media, no public records. It's like he vanished. And Jerome and Irene, they both just left. No farewells, no explanations. HR said they'd both resigned for personal reasons. Marcus said the union pushed for some kind of investigation, but it went nowhere. Too much ambiguity, he said. No concrete violations, just a pattern of discomfort. I convinced myself it was a new management strategy, some weird, experimental thing, a stress test to see how much employees would tolerate before unionizing further. It sounds stupid now, even to me, but at the time, it felt logical. A bottom-line calculation, push us hard enough, and we'd either break or become more compliant. I haven't worked in a warehouse since. I'm a librarian now. Quiet, predictable, mostly. The other day, I was shelving books in the history section. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, was looking at the picture books. She had a bright yellow spray bottle in her hand, one of those little ones with a cartoon character on it. She was spraying it on the carpet, just spraying. Her mother was a few feet away, talking on her phone, completely oblivious. It smelled faintly of lemon cleaner. And for a second, just a fraction of a second, the air in the library felt thick, like it was hard to breathe. I was 22 and trying to figure things out, mostly by driving people around after dark. It wasn't glamorous, but the app-based work offered a lot of freedom, and I needed that at the time. Most nights were quiet, just commuting folks or people heading to dinner, and I could listen to podcasts between fares. I fell into a rhythm of chasing bonuses and trying to maximize my earnings during peak hours, which meant staying out later and later. It felt like a good, simple way to make a living. The highway was mostly empty after 1. Just the hum of the tires and that stupid little chime the app makes with every new ping. Another ride. Tam to Alton. Not a bad fare. I pulled up to the curb and there he was, same as before, an older, quiet guy. He got in, didn't say much, just gave me the address. That's when I noticed it again. The music box. It was sitting on his dash, right next to the air vent. Small, wooden, and it looked antique. I swear I hadn't seen it on the way to pick him up, but I figured maybe I just missed it. People have stuff in their cars. It was odd, though. I remember thinking it looked exactly like one my grandmother used to have. Same little carved roses around the lid. He was scrolling through his phone and didn't seem to notice me glancing. I tried to focus on the road, but it kept pulling my attention back. Then it was gone. Just not there anymore. I blinked and checked the rearview mirror, thinking maybe it had fallen onto the floor. Nothing. "Long night?" he asked, finally. His voice was raspy, like he hadn't used it much. "It is what it is," I said, trying to make a little extra. A few minutes later, there it was again. Right back in the same spot. I almost said something, but what was I going to say? Hey, is that music box appearing and disappearing? That would be weird. I decided he was probably just moving it around and I was overthinking things. Maybe he was fiddling with it while looking at his phone and I just caught it at different angles. He asked me to drop him off at the old mill. That was unexpected. It's way outside the service area, but the app accepted the ride, so I figured maybe he knew the owner or something. People do strange things late at night. The mill road was awful, gravel mostly, and narrow. I kept checking the app, making sure the destination hadn't changed. It hadn't. He didn't say a word the whole time, just stared out the window. That was normal, I guess. A lot of people just want quiet. But it was intense. He wasn't looking at anything, just through it. When we finally got there, the mill was worse than I imagined. Half collapsed, windows boarded up. It looked like it hadn't been used in decades. He just nodded, pointed to the front door, and said, "Right there. No thank you, no nothing." I got out to open the door for him, habit more than anything, and that's when I saw it. The music box, sitting on the passenger seat right where his hand had been. I distinctly remember because it hadn't been there 5 minutes ago. It was the same one. Dark wood, little brass ballerina on top. I didn't say anything. I just unlocked the door. He stepped out and vanished inside without another word. I sat there for a minute, staring at the music box. Probably just forgotten it. People are careless, but it felt wrong. I took a picture of it with my phone, just in case. Then I drove straight back toward town, ignoring a couple of ride requests that pinged right after. I needed to get back to areas I knew, familiar streets. The next morning I woke up to a notification. My account was suspended. It said I'd accepted a ride outside the service area and hadn't completed a return trip. I called support, got the runaround. Then I checked my ratings, a 1-star review. From him, he said I'd been rude and refused to wait while he handled some business. And then another ride request. Same pickup location, same destination, same passenger, Alton. I deleted the app. I figured someone had a really messed up sense of humor or a grudge. I bought a new phone, changed my number. I thought that would be it. It didn't stop with the phone. A week later, I was driving for another app, just trying to make rent. Same thing. Account suspended. Same 1-star review, worded exactly the same. Rude driver, refused to wait, and the ride request. Alton to the mill. I almost didn't believe it. It had to be some kind of glitch, a massive coincidence. I reported it to the company, explained what happened with the first app. They were sympathetic, I guess. They said they'd look into it, but the account stayed suspended. Then came the emails, just photos of me. Driving from different angles. Not security camera footage, like someone was following me, more like someone was in the car. Not visible, just the angle, like a hidden camera. Always with a view of the road, my hands on the wheel. They started showing up a few days after the second suspension. No message, no sender address I recognized. I started looking over my shoulder all the time. I even checked the car for cameras, tore the upholstery apart. Nothing. It felt invasive, like someone was breathing down my neck. I kept thinking it was someone who hated me, someone obsessed with getting me fired. A disgruntled passenger, maybe. Then yesterday, I got a package. No return address. Inside was the music box. The dark wood, the little ballerina. I almost threw it away, but something stopped me. I hadn't thought about music boxes in decades, not since Prue. She had one just like it. She loved ballerinas. I figured it was some twisted joke, someone digging up old information. A really sick joke. This morning I found a note taped to my windshield. One word. Soon. And then, a time. 9:17 p.m. My street. I didn't even think. I just started driving away anywhere. And then I saw him. Standing on the corner waiting. Alton. He wasn't hailing a cab. He was just standing there, looking at me. I drove. Just drove. Not for the app, not for fares, just to put miles between me and Alton. And that feeling, I ended up at Vince's. Vince and I go way back to our construction days. He has a shop out by the highway and does body work, mostly. I hadn't seen him in 5 or 6 years. I figured he wouldn't ask questions, just let me sit. He did ask, eventually, after the third coffee. I told him about the rides, the mill, and Alton. I left out the music box. That felt different, too personal. Vince listened, mostly nodding. He said it sounded like someone was messing with my account, maybe a competitor trying to run me off the road. That made sense, I guess. It was getting harder to make a decent living anyway. He offered to look into it and said he had a guy who could trace IP addresses, that sort of thing. Then he asked about the mill. What was at the mill? I told him nothing, just trees, an old building. He went quiet, really quiet. And then he said, "You know Dora used to live near there, right, before everything?" Dora, Alton's sister. I hadn't put it together. I hadn't even thought about Dora in decades. They both grew up in that town. It all felt smaller suddenly, like a bad dream condensed into a single dusty road. Vince's guy traced the account activity. He said it wasn't just someone messing with my ratings. Someone had full access. They changed my banking information and added a new phone number. It was meticulous, and the location data showed someone was logging in from inside my apartment at least 12 times in the last month. Before I even noticed anything was wrong, I'd been letting someone in, or something. It's been a while. I don't really talk about the rideshare thing anymore. People get tired of it. They want to hear about vacations, not someone messing with your life. And honestly, I don't know what it was. I keep going back to the account access, though. That's what sticks. After everything with Vince, I changed all my passwords, obviously. I used two-factor authentication on everything. I even got a new phone. But the rides kept coming. They were weird. They were long distances for pocket change. There were back-to-back requests in opposite directions. I started accepting them, just to see. It was exhausting, but I figured someone was trying to ruin my ratings, drive me off the platform. Some kind of competitor. It made a sick kind of sense. Then the cancellations started. Passengers booked, then canceled a second later. Each time, a small charge hit my account. Just a few dollars. But it was constant. It felt like someone was testing something, seeing how far they could push. I remember one night driving back from the airport, a real long haul, and seeing a flash of someone in a dark hoodie across the highway, near the old industrial park. Just a glimpse. I told myself it was nothing. Just someone waiting for a bus. I eventually stopped driving at night. I just stopped. I told myself it was the fatigue, the money not being worth it. But I knew better. I still catch myself checking the rearview mirror at every stoplight, even when I'm not in a car. It's automatic now. Every red light, just a quick glance, just to see who's back there, just in case. I still double-check every email I send, even now, sometimes 3 or 4 times before hitting send. It's a strange habit, born from a summer I spent trying to make a good impression. It was after graduating college, and I'd gotten what felt like a lucky break, an internship with a well-known company in the city. I was eager to prove myself, and maybe, just maybe, turn it into something more permanent. The rest of the week was emails. So many emails. Mostly just forwarding things, requests for updated spreadsheets, that sort of stuff. Hattie was good about explaining everything, though. She would pop her head over the cubicle wall and walk me through a process, then send a follow-up email summarizing it. It was thorough, almost overly thorough. I don't know, I was just grateful for the help. Then came the email from Yates. It was Friday afternoon, just before 5. I was already mentally out the door, thinking about grabbing dinner with Cleo. The subject line was just Project Beta, quick Q. Nothing weird about that. I'd spoken to Yates maybe twice at networking events during college. He was a few years ahead, always seemed to know everyone. But the email arrived instantly. Like, I refreshed my inbox and it was there. I stared at the timestamp. 4:59:58 p.m. My email client always showed the full second. I'd literally just been thinking about leaving. It was a small thing, but Yates wasn't directly on the project. He worked in acquisitions, 2 floors up. He shouldn't have been monitoring my email thread with Hattie. I reread the email. It wasn't even a question, really. Just a suggestion to double-check a specific figure in the spreadsheet. A figure I had checked. I replied, thanking him, and mentioning I'd already verified it, sent. And then I got another one back. 5:03 p.m. He must be really on top of things, I thought. Some people just live in their inbox. Maybe he has a notification set up for anything mentioning Project Beta and just reacts. It wasn't malicious, just efficient. It was a little odd, but honestly, in a place like this, maybe that was normal. I texted Cleo saying I was heading out. I didn't mention the email. I checked my phone again while waiting for the elevator. No texts from Cleo. We usually talked about our evenings, even just little stuff. It was weird. I figured she was just busy. The elevator finally dinged, and the doors opened to empty, which was also weird. It was always packed at 5:30. I rode down, staring at the floor numbers light up, trying to remember if I'd seen Yates on the elevator before. He was always around, always there somehow. I walked 3 blocks to the subway, taking the long way around the park. I don't know why. It just felt better, less exposed. That email from him had stuck with me all afternoon. He'd responded to a draft I'd sent to Hattie for review. A draft Hattie hadn't even forwarded to him, just directly to me, offering a minor edit. It wasn't a big deal, really. Just odd. Then, as I cut through the park, I saw him. Yates. Standing by the fountain, looking at me. He wasn't doing anything else, just standing there. He turned and walked the other way as soon as I noticed, disappearing into the crowd. I sped up, heart hammering. Maybe he lived near here. Maybe he was just going to the bodega. People walked through the park all the time. It was probably nothing. I tried calling Cleo again. Straight to voicemail, I texted her. Hey, everything okay? Still nothing. I checked my email one last time on the train. Another email from Yates, subject line, quick thought. Just a single sentence offering a different approach to the same minor detail. Sent 2 minutes after I'd entered the park. The train doors opened, and I practically fell onto the platform. It was empty, which was weird for rush hour. I kept checking my phone, expecting another email, but nothing came. Just 3 unread messages from Yates. I started walking fast, trying to get home. I cut through the park, same as always. It was darker than I remembered, even for November. Then I saw him standing by the fountain, partially hidden in the shadows. Yates. He wasn't looking at me, just staring at the water. I froze. How? I had just gotten off the train. It wasn't possible. I ducked behind a big oak tree, my heart hammering. He hadn't seen me. Not yet. I figured he had to be waiting for someone. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he lived nearby. I risked a glance. He was still there, and he was looking right at the tree, directly at me. He didn't react, didn't smile, didn't do anything, just looked. I started to run, not towards the street, but deeper into the park, towards the maintenance sheds. I remembered seeing a gate there, a way to cut through to Flora Street. I fumbled with the gate. The latch was cold and stiff. It finally gave, and I slipped through, jogging along the chain-link fence. I risked another look back. He was walking slowly, not running, not even speeding up, just walking in my direction. It was unsettling. It felt deliberate, like he wanted me to know he was following. I broke into a sprint, finally reaching Flora Street. I didn't stop running until I was inside my apartment building, buzzing myself in, and practically collapsing against the elevator doors. The doorman, Hector, looked at me strangely. "You okay, kid? You look like you've seen a ghost." I just mumbled something about a long day and hurried up to my apartment. I checked my email again. Nothing new. But the 3 old messages were now marked as read. I hadn't opened them. I just sat there on the couch for a long time. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't even look at my phone. I just listened to the hum of the refrigerator. Hector's face kept popping into my head. He said, "You look like you've seen a ghost." It felt accurate. I went back over everything, replaying the walk, the subway, the street. How could he have been there? Twice. It was impossible. I finally called Flora. Her phone went straight to voicemail again. I left a message, rambling I'm sure. Something about feeling like I was losing it, about someone following me. I told her about the emails, the read receipts. She always picked up on stuff like this. She'd know what to say. Then I remembered the apartment key. I dropped my spare key ring at Yates' place last week when we were ordering takeout. He lived in the building, 1 floor down. I'd meant to pick it up, but I called Yates, and he said he'd left it with the doorman, Hector. I went downstairs, my heart hammering. Hector wasn't at the desk. An older guy I didn't recognize was sitting there. I asked about my key. He rummaged around, then handed me a ring. It wasn't mine, it was Prue's. Prue from accounting. I hadn't seen her in months. He said, "Someone dropped this off for you. Said you were expecting it." He didn't seem to notice my confusion. "Expecting what?" I asked. "Just said it was a spare." I went back upstairs, the key heavy in my hand. Prue? Why would Prue have my spare key? I called Flora again, leaving another message, my voice tight. This was getting weirder. It had to be a mistake, some kind of mix-up, but the feeling was different now. It wasn't just being followed, it was like someone was rearranging things around me, like they had access to my life, to the little details, and they were just playing with it. It's funny, the things you get used to. Not okay, not funny, but you adapt. I finished the contract with Yates & Co., eventually just finished it. I didn't push for anything. I didn't ask questions. I just did the work, collected the checks, and started applying for things out of state, anywhere. I haven't spoken to Prue since. Not really. I saw her once, months later, at a networking thing. She smiled, a quick bright thing, and then turned away, like I was a particularly dull piece of furniture. I think she was testing me, seeing if I'd say something. I didn't. I still take Ubers now, even though the subway is faster. It's stupid. I know. It's just the thought of being packed in with people, of someone being close enough to know things. It started with the subway, then buses, then even walking alone at night. I started planning routes with more people, more lights. It felt silly at first, like being paranoid. I'm in Denver now. It's fine. A good job, a small apartment. I avoid buildings with doormen always. But it's not the doormen I think about. It's the lobbies. I was at a conference last week in this hotel downtown, all marble and brass, and they had one of those little sitting areas just past the front desk, oversized chairs, a fake ficus plant. I just froze. My chest tightened, and I had to excuse myself. I couldn't breathe. It smelled like lemon polish and something else, something I couldn't place. The hotel sent a complimentary fruit basket to my room the next morning. A small woven basket lined with cellophane, and tucked under the apples, nestled amongst the oranges, a single perfect key lime.